The billionaire saw her as a fling, until she became his forever. The unexpected encounter. The morning rush at Brew and Bean was in full swing when Olivia Reed glanced at her watch and cursed under her breath. Her presentation to potential clients was in 30 minutes, and the coffee line hadn't moved in what felt like forever. Her portfolio, filled with interior design concepts that had taken weeks to perfect, was clutched tightly against her chest. "Triple espresso for Olivia," called the barista, finally. Olivia grabbed her drink and turned quickly, colliding with a solid wall of expensive suit. Coffee splashed across the pristine white shirt and gray tie, and Olivia watched in horror as droplets cascaded down what was clearly custom tailoring. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she gasped, frantically reaching for napkins. "I wasn't looking where I was." "Clearly," said a deep voice, tinged with what might have been amusement rather than anger. Olivia looked up into the most piercing blue eyes she'd ever seen. They belonged to a tall man with dark hair threaded with silver at the temples. Something about him seemed familiar, but she couldn't place it. "Let me pay for your dry cleaning," she offered, although the thought of another expense made her stomach clench. Her last client had paid late, and rent was due next week. "That won't be necessary," he said, accepting the napkins she thrust at him. "Though I am curious what was important enough to have you moving at warp speed." Olivia glanced at her watch. Again. "I have a presentation across town in 25 minutes that could make or break my design business. And now I don't even have coffee to get me through it." The man studied her for a moment, then gestured to the barista. "Another triple espresso for the lady, and a black coffee for me." He turned back to Olivia. "I'm Ethan, by the way." "Olivia Reed," she replied, extending her hand without thinking. "And you really don't have to buy me another coffee." "Consider it networking," he said with a slight smile that transformed his serious face. "What kind of design work do you do?" "Interior design. I focus on creating spaces that tell the owner's story, not just following trends." She hesitated, then impulsively opened her portfolio. "Like this concept for a tech entrepreneur who loves both vintage vinyl and cutting-edge smart home features." Ethan examined the sketches with unexpected interest. "This is actually quite good. You've integrated the technology seamlessly without sacrificing character." "That's exactly what I was going for," Olivia said, surprised by his perceptive comment. Their replacement drinks arrived, and Olivia reluctantly closed her portfolio. "I really should go if I'm going to make this presentation." "Of course." Ethan reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. "But call me when you're finished. I've been putting off redoing my penthouse, and I think your aesthetic might be exactly what I'm looking for." It wasn't until Olivia was in the taxi that she looked at the card and nearly dropped her coffee again. Ethan Blackwood, CEO of Blackwood Technologies, the reclusive billionaire whose face rarely appeared in media, who had revolutionized renewable energy storage systems, and she had spilled coffee all over him. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Good luck with your presentation. I mean it about the penthouse. E." Olivia stared at the message, wondering if this was real or if she was still asleep. Either way, she had a feeling her life had just changed course in ways she couldn't begin to imagine. Business and pleasure. 3 weeks after the coffee incident, Olivia stood in Ethan Blackwood's penthouse, measuring tape in hand. The space was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, premium materials everywhere. Yet it felt like a high-end hotel rather than a home. "So, what do you think?" Ethan asked, appearing silently behind her. Olivia jumped, slightly. "It's impressive, but impersonal." "That's diplomatic," he chuckled. "My assistant furnished it after I bought the building." "You own the entire building?" Olivia asked, then immediately regretted sounding so shocked. "It's simplified." "Things?" Ethan said with a shrug. Security prefers it. As Olivia moved through the space, she noticed small incongruities. A worn paperback by the bed, vintage record player in the corner, a single framed photo of a woman who shared Ethan's eyes. "Your mother?" she asked, gesturing to the photo. Something softened in Ethan's expression. "Yes, she passed away 10 years ago." "I'm sorry," Olivia said sincerely. "My father died when I was 16. It changes you." Ethan studied her face. "It does." The moment stretched between them, unexpectedly intimate. "Mr. Blackwood," a voice interrupted. A tall man with salt and pepper hair entered without knocking. "The Tokyo investors are on the line." "James, I told you this morning was blocked off," Ethan replied, irritation evident. "And it's Ethan, especially in my home." James Harrison's eyes flicked dismissively over Olivia. "Some matters take precedence over interior decorating." "Actually, it's interior design," Olivia corrected pleasantly. "Decorating is just one small aspect of—" "Ms. Reed is redesigning the entire penthouse," Ethan cut in. "Tell Tokyo I'll call back in an hour." After James left, Ethan sighed. "Sorry about that. James has been my CFO since we started in my garage. He forgets boundaries sometimes." "No problem," Olivia assured him, though something about James unsettled her. "Shall we discuss your vision for the space?" Ethan smiled ruefully. "That's the problem. I don't really have one. I'm rarely here except to sleep." "Then let's start there. What helps you relax? What makes you feel at home?" Over coffee, Ethan revealed fragments of himself, his love of classical music, his collection of first-edition novels, his preference for rainy days. Olivia took notes, but found herself equally fascinated by the man beneath the billionaire facade. By their third meeting, preliminary designs had evolved into long conversations. By the fifth, they were sharing takeout on his balcony at sunset. "You're nothing like I expected," Olivia admitted one evening. "Disappointed?" Ethan asked, his tone light but his eyes watchful. "The opposite," she replied honestly. "The media portrays you as cold, calculating." "It's easier that way," he said. "People want something from me. Always." Olivia set down her wine glass. "I want to create a space that feels like you. The real you." Later that night, as Ethan walked her to her taxi, his hand brushed hers. Neither acknowledged it, but both felt the current that passed between them. The next morning, James cornered Ethan in his office. "You're getting attached to the designer," he stated bluntly. "Olivia has excellent ideas for the penthouse," Ethan replied neutrally. "I've seen how you look at her," James persisted. "Just remember, young, struggling designer meets billionaire. It's a tale as old as time." "She's not like that," Ethan said sharply. "They never are," James replied. "Until they are." Ethan dismissed the warning, but that night, watching Olivia sketch ideas for his library, doubt crept in. Was he just another wealthy client to her, or something more? When her hand accidentally covered his while reaching for a sample, neither pulled away. Their eyes met, and for once, Ethan Blackwood, who calculated every business risk to the decimal point, decided to take a chance on something he couldn't quantify. Hidden Truths. The headline glared from Olivia's phone screen. Blackwood's new fling, billionaire tech titan slumming with unknown designer. Beneath it, photos of her and Ethan entering his building, laughing over dinner at an exclusive restaurant, his hand on the small of her back. Private moments now dissected for public consumption. Her phone rang. Ethan's name flashed on the screen. "Explain." His voice was cold, controlled, the voice of the businessman she'd never actually met until now. "Explain what?" Olivia asked, confused. "The photos, Olivia, the article, your 15 minutes of fame at my expense." Understanding dawned, followed quickly by hurt. "You think I leaked those photos? That I'm using you for publicity?" It's a reasonable conclusion. Only 2 people knew where we'd be dining last night. Then it must have been your driver or the restaurant staff because it certainly wasn't me, Olivia snapped, anger replacing hurt. My staff signs ironclad NDAs, Ethan replied. This conveniently happens just as your business could use a boost. Olivia felt as if he'd slapped her. I see. So this was all just business to you too? Testing me? Olivia. No. You've made yourself clear. I don't leak stories, I don't use people, and I don't work with clients who don't trust me. Consider our contract terminated. She hung up, hands shaking. 2 months of working together, of lingering glances and conversations that stretched into the night, all destroyed by his assumption of the worst. Across town, Rebecca Lane smiled at the notification on her phone. The gossip site had paid handsomely for the photos she'd taken while following Ethan and his new plaything. After 5 years together, he'd ended things with a polite but firm speech about different directions. No one discarded Rebecca so easily. 3 days after the article, Olivia was boxing up her design samples from Ethan's penthouse when James Harrison entered. Ms. Reed, he acknowledged with a thin smile. Leaving so soon? Mr. Blackwood and I had a difference of opinion, she replied stiffly. James picked up a fabric swatch. Such a shame. He seemed quite taken with your designs. Something in his tone made Olivia look up sharply. You knew this would happen? I protect Ethan's interests. Always have. By sabotaging his personal life? James shrugged. He'll thank me later. Women like you are temporary and men like his life. Women like me, Olivia repeated incredulously. Opportunists, James clarified. Though I admit, you played the genuine article well. Understanding crashed over Olivia. You think I leaked those photos, didn't you? James asked mildly. No, Olivia said firmly, but I think you wanted Ethan to believe I did. A flicker of something, surprise perhaps, crossed James's face before he masked it. The penthouse door opened, and Ethan entered, stopping short at the tableau before him. Olivia, he began, but she cut him off. I've removed my personal items. The materials you paid for remain. Another designer can easily take over. His eyes, those blue eyes that had looked at her with growing warmth for months, now reflected confusion and something like regret. I'd like to talk about what happened, he said quietly. There's nothing to discuss. You showed me exactly who you think I am, Olivia replied, picking up her portfolio. And you're wrong. As she walked past him, head high despite the tears threatening, Ethan caught her arm gently. What if I made a mistake? He asked, his voice barely audible. Olivia met his gaze one last time. Then that makes 2 of us. She left the penthouse, the building, and what she'd begun to hope might be her future, determined to rebuild her life without the man who'd so quickly assumed the worst of her. The revelation Florence in autumn was everything Olivia had imagined, golden light on ancient stones, the smell of espresso and possibility in the air. 3 months had passed since she'd walked out of Ethan's penthouse in life. The design commission for a boutique hotel had been a lifeline, an escape, a chance to prove her talent stood on its own. She was sketching in the hotel's courtyard when her phone rang, her sister's name on the screen. Zoe, isn't it 3 a.m. there? I just got the strangest visitor, Zoe said without preamble. Ethan Blackwood is sitting in my living room. Olivia's pencil snapped. What? He said he's been trying to reach you. Something about discovering who really leaked those photos. Heart racing, Olivia ended the call and switched to her email. Among the daily influx was one from an unfamiliar address, diana.millerblackwoodssecurity.com. The attached video showed Rebecca Lane, whom Olivia recognized, from society pages as Ethan's ex, handing an envelope to a gossip reporter outside his office building. The timestamp matched the day before the article appeared. A message followed. Mr. Blackwood instructed me to investigate the source of the leaked photographs. My findings are conclusive. He extends his sincere apologies for the misunderstanding. Olivia stared at the screen, emotions warring within her, vindication, lingering hurt, and something else she refused to name. Her phone rang again. Unknown number. Hello? She answered cautiously. It's me. Ethan's voice, slightly rough, as if he hadn't slept. I'm in Florence. So I hear? Olivia replied, struggling to keep her voice neutral. Terrorizing my sister at odd hours. I deserved that, he acknowledged. I've been trying to find you for weeks. Why? The question was barely a whisper. Because I was wrong, Ethan said simply. Because I trusted the wrong person and doubted the one person I shouldn't have. James, Olivia guessed, among others. Diana, my head of security, discovered Rebecca was behind the photos. James knew and said nothing. And now what? You've flown across an ocean to clear your conscience? A pause. I've flown across an ocean because I haven't slept properly since you walked out. Because my penthouse feels emptier than ever. Because... His voice caught. I miss you. Olivia closed her eyes. You didn't trust me. I've spent my life surrounded by people who want something from me, Ethan replied. It became easier to expect betrayal than to risk believing in someone. That's a sad way to live, Olivia said, softly. It is, he agreed. I'd like to change that, starting with asking where you are right now. Despite herself, Olivia told him. 20 minutes later, she looked up from her sketchbook to find Ethan standing in the courtyard entrance, travel-worn, and uncertain in a way she'd never seen him. I fired James, he said without preamble. And I finished the penthouse renovation following your designs. It feels like a home now, like what you saw in me made it into the space, even without you there. Olivia set down her pencil. I'm glad. I'm not asking you to come back, Ethan continued. I'm asking for coffee, for a chance to talk, for the opportunity to earn back your trust, however long it takes. The afternoon light caught his face, revealing the shadows under his eyes, the vulnerability he'd hidden for so long. Just coffee? Olivia asked, a tentative smile touching her lips. For now, Ethan replied. The rest is up to you. Redefining forever. 6 months after Florence, Olivia adjusted her bridesmaid's dress in the mirror. Her sister Zoe was getting married today, and everything needed to be perfect. You look beautiful, a voice said from the doorway. Olivia turned, to find Ethan leaning against the frame, handsome in his suit, watching her with that look that still made her pulse quicken. You're not supposed to be back here, she admonished. It's bad luck. That's only for the bride and groom, he pointed, outstepping closer. And I've had enough bad luck for one lifetime. I'm not risking any more. Their reconciliation had been gradual. Coffee in Florence, dinner in New York, weekend trips as friends, then more than friends. Ethan had kept his word, patiently earning. Back her trust one day at a time. Nervous about your speech? He asked, straightening the necklace he'd given her for her birthday. A little, Olivia admitted. Public speaking isn't my forte. You'll be amazing, Ethan assured her. Just like you are at everything else. A knock interrupted them. 5 minutes, Liv, Zoe called through the door. The ceremony was intimate and joyful. Afterward, as the reception began, Olivia found herself seated beside Ethan at the family table, a placement that hadn't escaped her notice. Your sister is subtle as a sledgehammer, she whispered as Zoe winked at them from the head table. She approves, Ethan replied. They all do. It was true. Olivia's family had welcomed Ethan with surprising warmth, especially after learning how He'd quietly funded the expansion of her mother's struggling bookstore without taking credit. When it came time for toasts, Olivia spoke of love and second chances. Her eyes found Ethan's across the room, and the words meant for her sister seemed meant for them as well. Later, as they danced under string lights, Ethan held her close. "I have something to tell you," he said, an unfamiliar nervousness in his voice. "That sounds ominous," Olivia teased. "The opposite, I hope." He took a breath. "Remember the hotel in Florence? I bought it." Olivia pulled back to stare at him. "You what?" "Not as a gesture," he clarified quickly. "As an investment. The owners were looking to sell, and I remembered how you talked about its potential. Your designs are being implemented as we speak." "Ethan, there's more," he continued. "I'm launching a foundation for arts education. I'd like you to head the design initiative if you're interested. Full creative control." Overwhelmed, Olivia struggled to find words. "Why?" "Because when we met, I was successful but empty. Because you saw the man behind the money. Because you walked away when principles mattered more than comfort." His fingers traced her cheek. "Because you taught me that forever isn't about duration. It's about depth." The music swelled around them, other couples moving past in a blur. "When I thought I'd lost you," Ethan continued, "I realized something terrifying. The billionaire everyone thinks they know? He's just a facade. The real me is the man who falls asleep listening to you talk about color theory, the man who's better because you expect him to be." Olivia felt tears threatening. "That man sounds worth keeping around." "I'm hoping you think so," Ethan replied, suddenly solemn. "Because I have one more question." He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. "I had an elaborate plan," he admitted. "Private island, sunset, the works. But watching you today, I realized the perfect moment isn't about location. It's about certainty." Around them, the reception continued, unaware of the quiet revolution happening on their dance floor. "Olivia Reed," Ethan said, opening the box to reveal a ring that somehow managed to be both elegant and distinctive. "You saw me when I was invisible to myself. You walked away when it mattered. You came back when it was earned, not given. Will you redefine forever with me?" The answer formed in Olivia's heart long before it reached her lips. What had begun as an accidental coffee spill had become the most intentional choice of her life. "Yes," she whispered against his lips. 1,000 times. "Yes." As Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger, Olivia realized that sometimes the greatest love stories don't begin with grand gestures or fairy tale meetings. Sometimes they begin with coffee stains and misunderstandings, with trust broken and rebuilt, with two people who discover that forever isn't a time frame. It's a decision you make every day, with open eyes and full hearts. What the tabloids had once dismissed as a fling had become something neither of them had believed in until they found each other. A love without expiration date. A love worth fighting for. A love that would, indeed, last forever.